Dan, thank you so much for joining us here at the Table and Gallery with Alex and Tree, who's based out of the UK. And here I am in New York City today. And you are in
Right now
what
I'm in
part of the
Florida.
world, Dan?
Fort Lauderdale, Florida right now.
Very nice. Very nice. And Alex, if you want to just introduce yourself and ask the first question that you've been itching to ask.
Okay, sure. I'm Alex, and I intern at the Table and Gallery. I'm a student in London, and one of my questions which I had was, is it better on LinkedIn when you're creating a network to create a network of people you know, genuinely know, or is it best to try and expand your network into maybe people who you don't know IRL in real life, but you meet through LinkedIn?
That's a great question. So to me, your network is only as valuable as the relationship inside of it. I would rather have 500 people who actually know who I am and know what I stand for, to be at my beck and call if I need to do something, deliver something, promote something, than have, 50,000 connections that I would have to pick through a lineup. Now, LinkedIn gives you, an incredible opportunity. I'm not a master at LinkedIn because I don't need it for my business, but I used to use it for my old companies. And it gives you an opportunity because you can connect with people that you don't know yet. And that's actually one of the biggest advantages. But you don't just hit the connect button, you've got to build that relationship. So it gives you an option to connect with a message or connect without a message, and if you have a genuine reason on why you want to connect with them, I think then there's value there. So, meaning if there's somebody that's doing something that you admire, you send them a message. You figure out how you could bring value to them first before you ask them for anything. The problem with social media is people ask people for things without giving them. And it's in a reciprocation world. Like, hey, can you come and look at what I'm doing? Hey, can I offer you something? Versus building relationship of, hey, came across your profile, very interested in X, Y, and Z and what you're doing. I would really love to learn more about you. Then that person is going to give you more value and treat you with a different level of respect. So, especially at your age, I would tell you don't be afraid to reach up, and build some of the best relationships, because some of the relationships I've built over the last 30 years have been because I was willing to introduce myself and have a conversation and walk into a room where I didn't know anybody. Just, kind of how this happened today. We met at an event, and we just came and, introduced ourselves to each other. We had a conversation, and that conversation today turns into a learning experience for you. So I would just expand your network. Don't confuse connections with relationships, and realize that no matter what platform you're on, just always be genuine about what you're trying to do. Don't try to be a taker without being a giver first.
Okay, so like using LinkedIn as an opportunity to have a genuine rapport with someone, as opposed to just connecting with anyone.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Dan, for that. Just okay. So my question was, as somebody that's run quite a few businesses in the past and is running one now, what's one of your goals or strategies towards scaling your business from that one person operation towards that larger conglomerate type of situation that you had in the past?
You were talking about my business or your business?
Yours. Sorry.
So that's a very unique question. For me, the biggest lesson I learned in building businesses is that you can't scale yourself. If every decision, every scale, every problem, every opportunity had to run through you or run through me, then you don't really own a business. You own a glorified job. So with what I'm building today, I'm being much more intentional. What I've done over the last 10 years is I build teams, and we create an environment where people want to be. I think one of the biggest problems in business today is people don't have a core value for what the business stands for, and they want to treat everybody like an employee. So the way that I coach my clients is, we build teams and everybody has their role on a team. Because think about this. If you looked at any professional team out there, they build something so big because everybody knows where their place is. They look at the scorecard. As long as they did what they were supposed to do, they know how they're supposed to show up. So I've built big organizations, and one of the mistakes that most entrepreneurs make is thinking that revenue or headcount equals success, which is not true. I built a $10 million company, and it completely owned my life. But then I built a $30 million company that I worked less than 15 hours a weekend. So I look at scaling completely different. I want profit, freedom, and impact, and I want it to stay in my zone of genius So being able to build these companies and sell these companies, I know that the way I coach and the way I teach and what I do today and how I build my business is the same way that I show other people how to build their business. Ultimately, the test is simple. If any business owner can disappear for 30 days, does their business keep moving or not? Is the ultimate question. I don't care how many people you have. I need to know if you have to carry your fire extinguisher with you while you're on vacation.
Right. So the goal is to hire people that can make your business self-reliant at some point.
The goal is to build the business to put people in, right? You build the team and then you recruit the players. So you got to create the systems that you're trying to create and you put the people in the system. Most problem in business today is people hire people because they need to fill a seat. My admin's quitting. Oh, my marketing guy's quitting. Oh, this one's quitting. And then they go into panic mode and they want to hire somebody right away just to fill the seat. But if you had a system and you put someone in a system, that system's duplicatable. So if you were to bring another person in, that person has to be enrolled in what they're supposed to do versus just filling a seat, if that makes sense.
Mm, right. And what are some qualities you would look for someone that you're looking to hire?
What are some qualities that I look for a hire?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So what's interesting is the first thing I look for is character. You can't teach somebody that to be dependable, to be accountable. You can't teach that stuff. The second thing I look for is, attitude and initiative, meaning I don't want somebody who needs me to tell them every single thing. I want somebody who sees a problem and then comes to me with a solution. And probably the biggest thing is do they fit their culture of where I'm going? So like I just said in the last question, right? So like, do they want to be part of the core values of what the company stands for and that culture, that camaraderie, that team? You can have a talent person who's the most talented person in the world in that place. But if they bring negativity, if they bring excuses, if they want to change the way you're doing business because they think they're better and bring drama into your organization, they're going to actually cost you more than they're ever going to produce. So I always hire character and then I train skill and I never compromise my culture for talent.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a good insight.
I had
And
a question.
wait,
Sorry to
we're gonna
interrupt.
go around in a circle. Now
Okay,
it's my
no worries.
turn. Okay, so I need to share this. We met at the Lamborghini event, and when I first met Dan, my first comment to him was like, "Nice hat," because I'm a hat person. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm Dan." We introduced ourselves, and one of the first questions Dan asked was, "So how many followers do you have?" And Dan, do you remember that? You asked me, "How many followers do I have?" And I was really taken aback. I was like, wow, I have only 106 followers, And I want to ask you, how much does social media play in attracting sales and customers and clients?
Give me a
Do
second
they
to think
really
about it.
look at the follower count and be like, okay, I'm working with them because they have a lot of followers?
So I think ultimately why I asked you how many followers you had, because you are building a brand, right? So when you're building a brand, there's something unique about that. And the reason why I asked you that because followers equal credibility, especially for certain things. So, there could be a lawyer out there who's only got 100 followers, but he's the best lawyer in the world, but he doesn't need social media, to be his gauge, right? It was because when we talked and we talked about my hat, I told you it was my brand. And that's
Mm,
what led into it. And I said, if you're building a brand, I want to understand the size of your audience that you're trying to reach. Social media matters because, I think people get obsessed with the wrong number. I'd rather have 1,000 of the right people following me than 100,000 people who would never buy from me, or like people who will never engage. So follower count can create social proof. People look at it when it comes to actually like generating business. I care a lot more about the trust, the consistency. So like if you look at a page like mine, you could see that there's a lot of engagement on my stuff, right? Then you look at a page of somebody who has 500 or 1 million followers and there's zero engagement. It's because they bought the number. They didn't build the number, so generating a follower count can either hurt you or help you. And I care more about trust, consistency, authority, and engagement. And are people paying attention to what I'm actually doing? And do people understand how I can help them? And do they trust me enough to take the next step with me? So I know people with huge audiences that, they can't do anything in this world. And I know people with relatively small audiences who make tons of money and have the right audience because that's all they need. And relationships are more important. So yes, I think building your following and your visibility will matter. but don't chase the followers. Build authenticity and know that the trust is going to help you understand the value that you're going to get long term.
Gotcha. Thank you. That really, I wish you told me that day. That really landed well, and it makes sense. And I think one thing I just took from what you just shared was engagement, like engaging with the audience and responding back to them and commenting. That's something I've been encouraging the interns to do, is that don't be shy to leave a comment and share your thoughts on a post, because it's just going to bring visibility with who you are. So when I see an artist engaging more on my posts, that's pretty much saying, hey, look at me. And I want to look at them because I'm like, wow, they're really engaging on my post. So they must have something they want to bring to the table. So that makes sense. I need to engage more. Another story. Okay.
You just got to be
Yeah.
consistent. As long as you're consistent, your page will grow.
Do you have a did you have a mentor or someone who inspired you when you first went into entrepreneurship? Was there somebody that sort of gave you their wisdom or made you want to go into what you're doing?
So nobody made me go into what I actually didn't have a mentor, when I first became an entrepreneur, and I wish I did. I went bankrupt at the age of 24. I made about $7 million by the time I was 24, and then I lost it all. So people ask me, like, what's the biggest mistake that you made? And it was not asking for help. So I learned a lot. I learned the hard way. I made the mistake. I lost money. I trusted people. I built the business, but I lost the business because I didn't really have business doing business. And, later in life, I started surrounding myself with mentors. I did meet my rich dad. So I read a book when I was 15 years old called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I come from a super poor family. And I met my rich dad when I was 16, and he encouraged me to do bigger things in life, but I didn't listen to him. So it's a big reason, why I've had coaches from 24 up until now. I still have a coach. I'm a coach and I have a coach. I pay my coach 6 figures a year, and people can't even fathom that. But I remember my first coach was like 10,000, right? So it's the reason why I coach today is because I really try to help the entrepreneur and the person have what I wish I had when I was younger. Somebody who can look at you and say, I've been down this road. I've made this mistake. Don't spend time doing here. We can, literally time collapse the next 5 years. So I would tell every entrepreneur out there or anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, find somebody who's already been where you want to go. You can learn through your own mistakes, but it gets expensive and it hurts. Or you can take the pain of expense and collapse time. The biggest problem is like this. You guys are young. So if I came up to both of you right now, I was like, hey, for the next 12 months, I can coach you for $40,000. You guys are going to go, oh my God, $40,000. But if I'm like, yo, listen, I've got a $600,000 Lamborghini outside and all I need is $40,000 to let it go. You guys will do everything in your might to find the 40,000 because you go, I could just flip it or I could just keep it. And I got a Lambo for 40 grand because you see the value up front. You don't see the value long term. But I could take $40,000 investment to me helping somebody and I could turn it into multi-millions. And I could do it a lot faster because I've got 26 years in experience. So we look at monetary value. We look at the things, the shiny objects in front of us and this stuff. So if you guys have checked out my Instagram, or if you do, one thing that you're not going to see on there is hype. I've got 3 houses, I've got 9 cars, but you don't see that stuff because that stuff's not important. All the other coaches that don't have any substance, they use that stuff so that you buy stuff from them. For me, I leverage information. I give you answers so you trust me and then you pay me for more. Big difference.
So there's obviously 2 states you can be: a business owner and somebody that's beginning or starting to think about running a business or becoming an owner. What's some mindset shifts or any frames of mind that you should put yourself in to give yourself the best opportunity to be successful?
You guys, good questions. I think the biggest mindset shift is going from what if, right? Meaning most people don't take risk because they say, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? For me, the shift is, what am I willing to figure out? Because if it does work, what's the end result? And it's like this. So whenever you meet somebody, they go, hey, I'm going to try and lose weight. Usually they stay fat for a long time because they tried it and they can go out and tell the public, hey, I tried to go on a diet. I tried to go to the gym but it just wasn't for me. There's a difference between commitment and trying. Does that make sense? If you say, I'm going to make this business work, regardless, you're going to make it work because it's the way that you're thinking about it and you're projecting the outcome of something happening, right? So you're going to fail more times than you succeed in life, no matter what you do. So why not just go towards your excellence? You're only allowed to do it once. We only get life one time. The second shift is understanding that nobody is going to come and save you. We live in this world where we live poor me. Something bad happens to us, the economy crashes. We want to blame everything. We don't want to take accountability. When you become an entrepreneur, so there's a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur. A business owner is somebody who owns something, creates jobs for others, but necessarily doesn't have freedom. We call those guys wantrepreneurs. They want to be an entrepreneur. They just haven't figured it out yet. Entrepreneur is a world of leverage. So everything becomes your responsibility, but you have other people handling it. The economy, your employees, bad customers, deals falling apart. You can't complain about it. You go, okay, I'm going to control what I can control, and I'm going to move forward and do what I can do next. And I'm not going to worry about what I can't control. Too many business owners try to help the fire come back versus letting the fire burn and focus on what they can grow. So most people need to stop waiting to feel ready. I see people spending years researching. They're going to read another book. They're going to watch another YouTube. I personally believe and you guys will get my book. I'll get your guys' information. And my book's coming out in November. I'll send you a copy of my book. So why did I make $7 million from 17 years old to 24 years old? Because I was ignorant. Ignorance on fire creates opportunity. Why did that other guy who was 37 years old that had the great idea about business but never took action stay broke for those 7 years? Because he never took action. So movement is always better than being stagnant. So I would tell someone, hey, listen, if you make $100, learn how to lose $100, but you're not going to make $100 unless you proactively go after it. And ultimately, I think the people who are not necessarily the smartest people in this world, like myself, are usually the best at it because we don't try to learn too much. We try to learn what we can and utilize other people who know what they know, and we don't try to learn that stuff. So she just said before, hey, can you fix your screen here, or your picture or whatever? Can you put yourself further on the camera? I don't know how to do that. That's not my world. Same thing about, building funnels, same thing about building websites. I don't want anything to do with that. That's not my expertise. So learning the 80-20 rule in business, there's one thing or two things that you're really good at. Focus 80% of your time on those 20% of things, and you will excel, throughout business, and then find everybody else who can keep you going and filter in those spots.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as somebody that overthinks quite a bit, I think that's pretty good advice, I'd say. So
Yeah, me too.
And
So
my
listen,
question to you
always
is,
remember this: as you're overthinking, somebody else is making the move. So my podcast host, a co-host, wrote the forward to my book, and he says every single time I get into this motion of not moving, I think of Dan, because one thing that Dan taught me 8 years ago was all you need to do is take action. And what he thinks about now to get moving is like, Dan would have figured it out already. Dan would have figured it out already. Dan would have figured it out already. So for me, I probably don't know the answer, but I'll pay for speed. I'll find out who does know the answer. I'll pay them for it. I'll take it and I'll keep going. Does it make sense?
okay, right.
and that's the way I look at time. Each time that tick on that clock when it's moving, to me, that's like money. That's money moving. And if I don't take action now, I'm losing money by the second, by the minute, by the hour. So it's like I need to make those quick decisions. Otherwise, it's going to be just mayhem. My question to you, Dan, is with all the businesses that you've owned, how do you, when you see one that's not doing well and you're like, okay, I just need to pull the plug and cut the cord, how did you do that for the first time? And what made you decide to say, okay, I need to move?
And you guys are like making me read my book out loud right now. I think one of the hardest things for an entrepreneur is knowing the difference between something that needs more time or something that you're trying to keep alive because of your ego. I've made a mistake that, you put money into something that you put years into it. That's called experience. You put your name on it and now you feel like, hey, like if this thing falls apart, I'm a failure. I failed. You didn't. You bought experience. So you keep feeding it because you're emotionally attached to something that you've already invested in. So what I learned is that money I spent yesterday is gone. The time I spent yesterday is gone. Yesterday was over last night. The only question that matters is knowing everything I know today. Would I invest my money, my time, and energy into this business anymore or to a business like this again? And if the answer is no, then you have to have the courage to make the decision. So basically, I tell people who are in a business that's, failing or not growing or just never going to turn a needle, I go, if you knew everything you knew right now, and I handed you this business and it was day one, would you take it? And you can usually answer that question right then and there. But I also don't pull the plug on something because it gets hard. I'll look at the numbers. I'll see if there's a demand. Is the model profitable? Can it become profitable? Is the problem fixable? Is it a sales problem, leadership problem, or is it fundamentally just a bad business? And then I make the decision and move because you're right about the clock. Money ticks every day, but I don't look at money. Like I don't even care about money. Money is a secondary thing in my life. It's a byproduct of how I show up. So money will always come back to you. It's reciprocal. The more you give away, meaning the more money you give away, the more information you give away, the more you help people, the more fruit that's going to come back to you. And I've seen it time and time again. The problem is people are super frugal and they don't want to release. And if you don't release, you're going to stay stuck, So today I protect my time way more than I protect my money. And sometimes the smartest business decision you can make is not figuring out how to save something. It's knowing when to stop feeding it and then putting that energy into the next opportunity.
I've noticed that you have a lot of books on your back shelf. Is there one there which you say has had a big impact on you or has influenced you in any way, which has helped your business?
Hold on one second, brother.
Wow, it's a library. You're sitting in a library.
It's my office. So I've read over 960 books. I've read like 966 books thus far. And a lot of books. So some books are good to read. Some books are good to study, so picking one book is tough. The reading is probably the biggest investment that you'll ever make in your life. I truly believe that personal development has been the largest factor to everything I've done. Listen, guys, I'm a high school dropout. I don't have a PhD, public high school diploma, but I tell everybody I have an MBA, massive bank account, right? Because I learned from people who have money. Both of my sons, 21 years old and 20, these guys are making high six figures a month, my sons, because they've learned from me and the people I've surrounded them with. Neither one of them went to college. I told my kids, if you don't go to college to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant, so some of you guys here are going to win on that, then don't go to college. Because at the end of the day, all you're going to do is get trained on how to have a job, and a job is never going to give you the life you want. So how do you study success? You have to mimic what the successful people do. I'm not going to degrade school, but I'm going to tell you that we go to school from first grade to 12th grade for 18,000 hours of our life, and we get taught by average people how to do average things. If your high school teacher was able to make $40,000 a month, do you think they would be standing in front of that classroom? Probably not. They would be doing it. So the same thing with college. You got to be super, super aware of what you're doing in college. Most professors, they teach, but they never profess. They never actually do the work. So you can't get wealthy on textbook. You have to get wealthy on experience. So when I read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, at 15 years old, it changed the way I looked at life immediately. And I realized that most of the people in my world were full of shit because they were following this system. So the next book I read was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So if I had to give you a couple books that really influenced me, I would say 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. I would say Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I would say Good to Great. I would say Hide Your Assets and Disappear. Some newer books that are good are Who Not How, 10X is Easier Than 2X, Traction, and The E-Myth are probably all my favorite books. And I just think the bigger lesson from reading is that you don't just read to collect information. You read to find one idea in that book that you can actually execute on. Get an idea from the book that changes the way you lead, changes the way you sell, changes the way you communicate, whatever it is, and then make a decision. The problem in this world is we live in the information age. We have unlimited information. You can go on YouTube or Google anywhere and find anything you want. Now you can go on ChatGPT. But the problem is information doesn't mean anything until implementation.
Okay, thank you. And I aspire to have a library like yours in my office someday.
One book at a time, brother. One book at a time.
All right. just building off what you said both your sons are earning at the high six figures, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, as somebody beginning on that path, what's a few steps that we should take just so we can eventually break into that type of bracket of business or whatnot?
All right.
I know
So
this is digging into a
I
bit of your coaching, but
it's all good. I mentioned a book, 10x is easier than 2x. So that book is going to help you. But what I can tell you is when you look at business, one of the biggest things I'll tell you is that you have to start thinking bigger earlier. So if I ask both of you young men right now, and I said, in the next 5 years, do you believe that you can make $1 million?
Yeah, I back myself.
Do you believe you can make 10 million?
Yeah, if you can make one, don't see why you can't make 10.
That's not the question. Do you believe that you can make 10?
I believe I could make 10
You believe you can make 50?
in 5 years.
Yeah.
I think 50. I think I could
See,
do 50, but no
so
more.
you, see,
That's the
I
best I
think
think I
so.
could.
You'll never make 50 because you said I think. Your first two opportunities are there, but it ain't going to take 5 years. It's going to take 10 to 15 because you don't believe you can make 50. So that's what that book teaches you. It shows you the process of how to think bigger so smaller calculations come quicker. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So allowing yourself to believe that the sky is possible. So if I were to say, hey guys, listen, and I don't want you to answer this, I want you to answer this later, but I would say, give me your ideal life 10 years from now. And you gave it to me. If you go back and look at 95% of the world who mapped out their life in 10 years, most people haven't even made it to year 4 yet. And the reason why is they set a limitation. So I would say, hey, give me a dream bigger than that. So people go like, what do you want to accomplish? I go, well, I want to go dance on a moon one day and just throw money down and let it hit everybody else. Like, dude, that's like not going to happen, right? But that's like, hey, I'm going to do that because it's stretched so far that all the things I do are so micro compared to that. So that's why that book is so good. You know, most people ask, how can I just make a little bit more money? I want you asking, how do I become 10 times more valuable? Because income will follow the thought process of that. My sons didn't get to high six figures because I handed them some magic formula. I made them hire a coach. They learned skills. They worked. They made mistakes. They took responsibility. And now they just solve bigger problems. The bigger problem that you could solve from somebody, the more valuable you become. So I'd focus on a few things right now at a young age. Learn how to sell, learn how to communicate. And when I say sell, I mean sell yourself because we sell ourselves every day at the dollar amount that we feel we're worth. So learn how to sell, okay? Learn how to communicate, understand money. You have to respect money, surround yourself with people doing better than you, and become obsessed with execution. Don't chase high six-figure numbers because that's employee shit. Chase becoming the person capable of producing numbers that are going to make a huge difference in his world. Because understand, by doing that, you're going to be helping other people be successful because they're going to have a team and you're going to create leverage. You guys are already doing something that most young people aren't doing. You're sitting here asking questions, interviewing entrepreneurs, and trying to learn. Now take what you learn and actually use it. Knowledge without execution, like I said before, like doesn't mean anything. Read a couple books, get yourself there. I don't watch any TV. I've got like 23 TVs in my house and I don't watch any TV. I read in the morning, I read at night. My brain is always full so that I can always execute. And I just always try to become 1% better every day than I was yesterday.
just building off that real quick. How do you keep yourself grounded? Because as someone that's aiming so high, when you take that small first step or second step, how do you keep yourself grounded into thinking you're still making progress and you're not actually failing in anything?
Listen, dude, I've had money. I've lost money. I built businesses. I've lost businesses and I had to rebuild them again. I've learned a long time ago that I can't let a number in a bank account or the size of my company define who I am. I'm a bigger believer in thinking big because bringing it back to what I can do today, if you can have a 10-year vision, you know, that's great, but you still have to win your Wednesday. You guys still have to win today. And it's about winning every day, being 1% better every day, showing up every day. And I don't get too high when things are going great or too low when things are wrong. I always stay focused on movement. You know, my faith keeps me grounded. My family keeps me grounded, and failure definitely keeps you humble. So I could say, listen, fail hard, but jump back fast. So dream ridiculously big to understand that you don't climb mountains by staring at the top. You climb mountains by taking the next step. So there's nothing too big because somebody has already achieved it. and the next person is looking to beat them. And why can't you be that next person?
Building on that, what's your dream? Because you keep talking about having this big aspiration. I'm just wondering, at this stage in your career or in your journey, what's your big dream? You know, your
Dream's a good
motivation. What
question.
gets you waking up every morning? What do you look for?
What wakes me up every morning. So I'm going to base mine on legacy. And I think that's super important to understand because I had the money, man. I've done $1 billion in business in 26 years. At this stage of my life, it's legacy. I've chased money. I've built businesses. I had success. I've had things and rebuilt them. And, I've had zero in my bank account when I couldn't even sleep at night sometimes. So what gets me up is asking, what am I leaving behind? If I were to die today, I faced a heart attack 4 years ago. So when I was in that ambulance, the money didn't matter, the house didn't matter, the cars didn't matter. What mattered were my kids and like the example that I did not yet set for them. If there was going to be a conversation 15 years from that day about what their dad did, oh, my dad was a developer, he built a whole bunch of houses, woohoo. But what did I really teach or how did I impact anybody else? So my children, I don't want to just leave them money. If you look at most wealthy people that are uber wealthy, they don't leave their kids money. They give it to somebody else because they know money is either going to destroy them or try to change them for who they're not supposed to be. I want to leave my kids principles, work ethic, faith, relationships, and the ability to be able to create something themselves. Because when I'm gone, money will run out. So you need to know how to do it. I want what I've built to impact my kids, their kids, and hopefully generations throughout because of the information age, knowing that, hey, my grandpa, my great grandpa, that's him on a video. And look what he did, and then that's why I coach people because when people hear me speak and people listen to my podcast and whatever, if I do something that's going to impact them or that goes through them, including my failures and helping you avoid a mistake or helping you move to the next level, my business becomes better. My fatherhood becomes better. My relationships become better because I'm impacting. We live in a world where everybody wants to be somebody, but if you were doing more as somebody for everybody else, imagine the difference. So my dream today isn't to rebuild a big company. I've had them. It's to build something that continues to grow and help families grow year after year, even when I'm no longer here. Money's temporary. Businesses come and go, but legacy and impact lasts forever. Bring me back to my younger age now. If I were your age again, knowing everything I know right now, the first thing I do is stop worrying about building a huge business and start worrying about building myself. So you said it yourself, like, what's the first step? The first step is the first step. Just go doing it. Learn how to sell. Like I said, learn how to communicate, learn how money works, learn how to walk into a room, learn how to shake somebody's hand, learn how to look somebody in the eye when you're talking to them. Conversations create opportunity long term. Learn how to hear without somebody rejecting you and it destroying your vision or your confidence. Those skills are things that are going to pay you dividends for the rest of your life. I start something like, don't wait for the $1 million idea or the perfect plan. Just figure out what you need to do right now to get started, whether that's, creating the strategy, creating the business plan, creating a business card or an identity of who you want to be, and then figure out how you can solve that problem for other people and start doing it. And then the money will start coming. At 17, I didn't have some master plan that got me here. I worked, I took chances, I screwed up, I learned, and I kept moving. And here's something I really want you guys to understand. You have the advantage right now that you don't even realize you have. You have time. You can take risks today. You don't have kids. You could totally become way wealthier with experience, people, relationships right now than if you had mortgages, children, a spouse, employees, and children that were depending on you. So now is your time. So start reading those first books, find your mentors, get around successful people, ask questions, because the stupidest question is the one that you don't ask. And if you spend the next 5 years building your skill instead of trying to look successful, by the time you're 22, 23, 24, you guys will be absolutely dangerous. So don't chase a platform, build your own, show up, consistency wins. The problem is nobody sees that small steps get you to the top. Every single day, just make sure you're doing something that's moving you towards the goal of where you want to go. And just know that it takes a long time to get there. Like, dude, I'm pretty fit, right? So I was a bodybuilder when I was young. I was a fat kid. So I went from being a fat kid to being a bodybuilder to staying fit late into my 40s. So how do I do that? I got to spend 2 hours a day in the gym. But if for the next year I don't go to the gym, I'm not going to look good. I'm not going to feel good. And I got to start that whole cycle over. And it's going to take me more than a year to get back to where I am right now. Does that make sense? So time tells everything. But the biggest and most important thing that you can do is just show up.
Sorry, I just had one last question. Do you ever work with anybody that you don't like? And how do you move past that?
I was talking to somebody about this today. I actually think that I posted something on my Instagram about this today. Absolutely, bro. One of the biggest lessons I learned is that you don't have to like somebody to do business with them, but you do have to respect them. Respecting someone and liking someone is two different things. I've worked with people that I wouldn't necessarily want to go to dinner with, but they were good at what they did. I wouldn't bring them around my family, but there was a mutual respect, and I can definitely work with that. Where I draw the line, though, is character. If I don't trust you, if you're dishonest, if you treat people like shit, or our values are completely different, I don't really care how much money you have or how much involvement you have in something. I'd rather walk away because that's going to affect my character. You know, when I was younger, I probably tolerated people a lot more because I needed the deal, I needed the money, I needed the relationship. So today, like at the event that we met at the Lamborghini event, like that guy was my friend until I realized the other side of him and I had to cut him off. So I had to make a conscious decision and say, I'm being used right now. I don't want to be used. I don't need to be used. I've learned lessons in my life and I just got to move on. So you don't need to like everybody, but you need to know how to communicate with different personalities. And you also need to know when to cut the rope or the umbilical cord because you never want to sacrifice your values just to make money. Not every dollar is a good dollar. Remember that. It took me years to learn that.
What's the biggest tip or skill, would you say, for selling yourself? Because as young people, we're always told, like you have today, that we need to sell ourselves and learn how to do so. What's one piece of advice you'd give us that will help us get better at that?
The biggest advice I can give you about selling yourself is stop trying to impress people. So look, bro, like this is what I wear, right? Like I got some shorts on, you know, some workout shorts, workout clothes. Wherever I go, I wear the same thing. I don't wear 3-piece suits. I don't get dressed up. I go on stage with 7, 8-figure earners, and this is what I wear. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. You know, I bring so much value that people look past it. But the problem is we want to create image. We want people to immediately be gravitated towards us. I'd rather walk in a room and people will be like, oh, that guy's nobody, and then realize I'm somebody because I'm still the same person I always was. The only difference was my experience has caught up to me. So when I was younger, I thought that selling meant telling people how good I was, what I accomplished, how good I looked. As I got older, I realized that the best salespeople actually listen more than they talk. So ask good questions, pay attention, understand what somebody needs and how you could be the solution to their problem that they're trying to solve, and then figure out genuinely if you can actually help them or not. And never try to be somebody just because you think that room wants to see you as that somebody. Always show up the same way on social media as you do in real life because people can tell the difference and smell the bullshit real quick. So people can feel authenticity like faster than anything else. So be confident enough to say, I don't know. If you don't know, be confident enough to say, I can if you can. And when you're going to do something, actually show up and do it. So at your age, reputation is just starting. So just protect it because one bad thing can destroy it long term and it can destroy many things. I ruined my reputation a number of times. I had to rebuild it because of people I was around and because of decisions I made, maybe that I shouldn't have made. But ultimately, the greatest sales strategy in the world is becoming somebody people know, like, and trust and want to do business with. So don't focus on selling yourself. Focus on building value in yourself so somebody sees that it's worth being around you. Make sense?
Yeah. So by being genuine to yourself and curious to learn off others.
Okay, well, I want to say, I'm very lucky to have discovered both Alex and Shri. They have been extremely valuable at the table and gallery with the support and the work and the mindset and the perspectives that they have brought to the table. And the table and gallery has started exhibiting globally. So we started off in Mexico City this year, London. So the connection with London is that's where I grew up. So I'm a dual citizen of UK. So London is my second home, but it's a great opportunity to give these opportunities to other students in London. And when I came across Sri and Alex and asked them, okay, well, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to learn? And I realized that these are two young lads that are eager, they're hungry, and they're asking the right questions. And I want the right people in the room to guide them because it does take a village. I can only do so much. And my role at the table and gallery is to make sure that everyone's seen and heard, but they're also given the resources that they need so they can continue to thrive in the field that they want to be in. And then also be open to seeing that there's so much more out there and that you can do so much more to build yourself. And one of the most important factors is building a healthy relationship with people. And I know we talk a lot about money and all of that, but relationships with people can go a long way. And I really highlight the importance of the table. Who do you want sitting at that table that's actually going to bring not just value into the project that you're creating or working on, but in your personal life. So being extremely mindful with the people we surround ourselves with, understanding that their energy, their behavioral patterns are definitely going to impact where you want to be in life. So I genuinely want to say, Dan, thank you so much. Since the day we met, you've been nothing but motivation and inspiration to a small business owner like myself who just wants to do big things all over the world and bring people together and give them resources and advice and surrounding them with the right people so they can grow and flourish. So I genuinely, really, and humbly thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us from your busy schedule.
Yes,
It
thank
means
you,
a
Dan,
lot.
for
I,
giving
I
us
I
the time.
appreciate you saying that. And I want to say something to Alex and Siri before we wrap up. You guys are already doing something right. You put yourselves in the rooms where people are there that you can learn from. You're asking questions, like she said, and more importantly, you're listening to the answers. Don't lose that hunger. And what you just said about the table is probably one of the most important lessons we talked about today. Your table matters, right? So I've learned that throughout my entire life. The wrong people can cost you years. The right people can change the trajectory of your life with one conversation. So protect your table. Don't choose people because they're cool, successful, or popular. Choose people because their character brings value to you and because they challenge you to become better. So thank you for giving these young men access to people and experiences and conversations that maybe they normally wouldn't have. And somebody believes in you guys. And because somebody does that, it's going to eventually open up doors at a stage of your life where you're going to now become responsible to be the person that's going to hold that door now open for somebody else. So make sure you pay this forward and you do it for other people. Always make sure you do something genuinely out of your heart. So if there's ever a question I can answer for you guys, something I can help you guys out with, reach out to me. You guys have a hell of a head start. And I just want to say, don't waste it.
Thanks.
And I'll drop all of your social media handles in this chat and also on the email. So you guys have, access, and I'll connect you all with him on LinkedIn as well if you haven't connected with him on LinkedIn yet. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Dan, and I will circle back in with all the video and content. I'm just going to stop recording right now. Okay.